I don't know if you know this or not, but I can predict the future. I'm serious, 100% serious. Predict the future. I can't tell you who the next president's going to be. Can't tell you what the lottery numbers are going to be. I can't tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl, largely because I don't know who's playing and I don't care, right? But there's a lot of things that I can predict about the future, and you can too. If Clayton plants black-eyed peas in the garden, I can predict with a strong certainty that what Clayton will be harvesting in 3 months is black-eyed peas, right? Predict the future. You can do the same thing, right? Stuff might go wrong. It's really dry. One year he got bad seeds and it didn't work out. But pretty much 95% of the time, you can predict with certainty a lot of things are going to happen. There are some things you can't predict. They're going to be random. You can't predict somebody's going to have a car wreck or tell them who they're going to marry or any of that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in life that you can predict the future. It's pretty easy to do. Let me just give you some examples here. I really like finance podcasts, personal finance podcasts. Now you get into like investment and options and things like that. No, thank you. But personal finance, it's like Jerry Springer, but about money is kind of the way it feels. It's not nearly as bad, but you know what I mean. And so listen to Dave Ramsey a lot for a long time. And I stopped listening to Dave Ramsey because I knew all the answers, right? He says about 4 things and just nobody listens. Like if you just call in with this problem, like it's option A, option B, option C, or option D. But so I listened to a lot of that. I watch a lot of stuff on Instagram of like people that come in and they're like, I'm broke and I don't understand why. And then he goes to the finance, like, you're broke because you make really bad decisions. That's why you're broke. But the thing about paying attention to these personal finance podcasts or radio shows or whatever is what you figure out, or at least what I figured out, is that you can predict the future by just asking a couple of questions about people. The first question you ask is, what do you want? And the thing that most people want, like there's a lot of different options about what people want, but the thing that most people want is to never be told no. That's all I want in life. Just never be told no. I don't want to tell myself no. I don't want anybody else to tell me no. I do not want to be told no. The second question that you can use to predict the future, and this is really the more important one, is what are you doing to get what you want? And really the want doesn't matter all that much. We all have wants. Most of them are not evil. Some of them are evil, but most of them are not evil. They're just things we want. But where the evil comes in, or the sin comes in, or the problem comes in, is what we're willing to do to get it. So let's talk about these personal finance things. We look at these guys and we say, they say, how much money you're making, and how much money do you have, and how much debt are you in? And they go through these things, and you find out this pattern. It doesn't matter if somebody makes $30,000 a year or $250,000 a year, if what they want is to never be told no, and what they're willing to do is anything to get what they want, they're going to have a disaster financially. They're going to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of Walmart. You are never going to run out of things that you want. You're never going to run out of the money that needs to be spent. You chase after these things and you will end up in a disaster. Unless you're a billionaire, and maybe not even then, you're never going to be able to out-earn what you can spend. You're going to find a way to do it. On the flip side of that, there are people, and like Dave Ramsey was more of this in the personal finance shows, but you would have these people that would call in. It's like, I'm a firefighter and I make $35,000 a year and that's all I've ever made. And then they talk through the things of like, we are debt free, we've paid off our house, we've invested for retirement, we've got a good college fund, and then you have the doctor calls in. It's like, I make $250,000, $300,000 a year and I'm about to declare bankruptcy. And you say, how do these two things happen? Well, because no matter how much money you make, if what you want is to never be told no, and what you're willing to do is anything, it's going to go crazy. Like, you're just going to spend all your money. This is what's going to happen. And you're going to go into massive amounts of debt. But if what you want is, let's say you want the same thing. I don't want to be told no. What are you willing to do to get it? Well, I'm not willing to go into debt to get it. I'm not willing to do it if I can't afford to. I'm not willing to do it if it's going to violate my plan. Guess what happens to those people? They're fine. They're fine. Teachers, firefighters, construction workers, and they call in and they're in their 50s or 60s and they've never really made much money. And they're in a significantly better financial position, all because they have limits on what they're willing to do to get what they want. A big problem with Gen Z right now, they don't want to cook. And I don't want to just bash a generation. There are good things about Gen Z, but Gen Z does not want to cook. And they've come up in a time where DoorDash, which just blows my mind, like what we're willing to pay for delivery. Pizza delivery is supposed to be free. I've never paid for delivery for anything else. But we're willing to pay a 25% markup, 30% markup, and a big fee to have it come in, and we never want to cook, so we want to have this because we never want to be told no. And then you get people, Gen Z people, that are spending $2,000 or $3,000 a month on delivery, on food delivery. They just never want to be told no. And it's not just Gen Z, right? You go up in the generations, and they're doing the same thing, just maybe not with food delivery. We don't want to be told no, and it's predictable. If you tell me what I want is to never be told no, and what I'm willing to do to get it is anything, I can predict your future. Super easy. It's not just money. There's other things too. I've had this scenario happen several times. Well, a guy will come sit down in my office and say, I've got this problem. I don't know why God's doing this to me. I don't know why this is happening. Well, let's talk through what's going on. Well, what's going on? Well, I've been dating this girl for 2 months, and now she's pregnant, and her divorce isn't final, and she's got 2 other kids, and neither one of us make enough money to support these kids. Why is God doing this to me? Why would God give me this trial? Or they'll say, well, I just think about Job and what Job went through. I'm like, you're not Job. You are not Job. And I'm not sure God was in the room when any of these decisions were made that led you, but everything you did was predictable. You were coming out of high school, and they said, go to college. And you said, I don't want to do that. And they said, well, go to trade school, get some kind of career. And you said, I don't really want to do that either. Well, what do you want to do? I want to be a millionaire from something on the internet. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, okay, but you're going to struggle to do that. Why don't you go get a career? Why don't you learn how to? No, I'm not going to do that. And then 10 years later, the guy's broke. He's like, why did God do this to me? Like, God? Like, God didn't do this to you. You chose this. We could have called this. Anybody in this room can call this. Okay, let's go to the next thing. You start dating a girl who's still married. Well, you know, they're working on the divorce. They're divorced in all but name. And I hate it when people say that to me. Like, I've had people say, we're divorced in every way that matters, just not on paper. Like, you mean you're divorced in no way, not even the one that matters. That's what's going on. But we were dating, and they're almost done. And like, you know, I know maybe we shouldn't have done that, but we really love each other. We felt like this is what God wanted us to do. It's not what God wanted you to do, but that's what we felt like. Like, now you're having trouble with her husband. Who could have seen that one coming? Who could have predicted this outcome? Well, we've only been dating for 2 months, and now she's pregnant. Like, listen, I know what causes that. Like, I know what's going to make that happen, and you do too. I know you're treating this as a recreational activity, but it has results. So you look at this guy, and he says, why would God do this to me? Why would God let this happen to me? Why would God give me these trials? Like, bro, God didn't do anything but give you free will. And because there was no limit on what you were willing to do to get what you wanted at that moment, your life is full of problems. You can predict the future. Just know what people want and what they're willing to do to get it, and you can predict the future with a high degree of certainty. It's super easy to do. And it's funny, if you use this as a party trick, like people are really impressed when you predict the future, but it's not hard. You can do that. We're looking at the book of James, and we're in James chapter 4, and James is in this section where he's wrapping up what's going on, wrapping up this letter, and what he says, he talks about this idea that we talked about last week about you're living, you say that you're following Jesus, but you still live like you're not. You still have the same goals and priorities as you did before, and things aren't working out for you and you don't understand why. It's because you were playing one game and you switched to another game, but you kept using the same rules that you used before. That doesn't work, right? If you're playing phase 10 and then you switch to canasta, but keep playing like it's phase 10, you're going to lose. And if you say you're following Jesus, but you keep living and acting and following the same priorities in the same way, like you did before, you're going to lose. It's just not going to work out. So we talked about that last week, and now what we're going to do for the next few weeks is look at the specifics. That was pretty general. We're going to look at the specifics about what James says. And what he starts with, this idea of your problems are largely because of what you want and what you're doing to get it. So let's just jump in James chapter 4. Right here, this is what we read last week. We'll just talk about this. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. That is, that if you can act like you're following Jesus, but you keep living like you're an enemy of God, you're going to have trouble. That's how it's going to work out. But he gets into specifics there in verse 1. James chapter 4, verse 1, verses 1 through 3. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Like, what's causing your problems in your life? Just look at all the problems in your life, the disagreements you have with people, just the money problems that you're having, the relationship problems that you're having, whatever problems that you're having, whatever fights that you're having in your life, what's causing it? I don't know. I'm just trying my best. I'm doing everything I can. I don't know what this problem is causing. I don't know what's happening. He says this, is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. He says, I can tell you what the source of most of your problems are. Is that there is a war going on inside of you. That you have been saved, you've trusted in Jesus, you've been made new, but you're still living like you haven't. And maybe you're not running around on your wife, maybe you're not murdering people, maybe you're not doing any of these things that we would look at as the big sins, but because you still have the same goals and priorities that you have, because you're still chasing the things that you chased before, or chasing them in the same way, it's causing problems. It's causing a struggle. It's always going to cause a struggle. When you say you're playing one game, but you're using the rules of another. He says, is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You've got this struggle. You know, sometimes it's really obvious. The Apostle Paul talked about in Romans, he said, I do the things I don't want to do. I don't do the things I do want to do. Oh, wretched man that I am. What's wrong with me? I don't want to do evil, but I still do evil anyway. I want to do good, but I don't do the good. What's wrong with me? And the idea that he talks about here is the struggle within you. That when you trust in Jesus, you are made new, that you receive a new spirit from him, a spirit that wants what he wants. But you still live in this meat sack, this body that's full of sin and wants sin and desires sin. And there's a struggle between those two. And James reinforces this idea that there is a war and a struggle within you. And when you give in to the flesh, you chase things the flesh's way, you do things the way the flesh wants it to be done, it's going to lead to trouble. You're not united. James talks about this concept several times throughout the book. He talks about being double-minded. And what he means in that is being inconsistent. You're just all over the place with the decisions you make. You're all over the place with your priorities. You're all over the place. And because of that, that leads to the majority of your problems. Maybe you've got a problem that you didn't have anything to do with. Maybe you've got cancer. Maybe your company closed down. Maybe you got laid off for whatever reason, and that's something you had nothing to do with. But if you look at most of your struggles, it's caused by you trying to get something in a way that Jesus told you not to, or somebody else in your life trying to get what they want, doing stuff Jesus told them not to, that's caused ripple effects from other people. That's where the source of this is coming from. You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. And I'm like, well, I'm not murdering anybody. Well, I'm probably not. Let's hope not. That would be quite the issue for us to deal with. But say you're not murdering people, but let's look at the extreme end of things. Why do people murder each other? Is it not because they want something? They want revenge. They want to remove somebody from their life. They want some sick pleasure because they're mentally deranged. It's because they want something. And they're not pursuing it the way that Jesus said to. That's where this comes from. So you may not have made it to the extreme of murdering somebody, but the problems in your life are largely because of what you want and what you're doing to try to get it. He says, you desire, you want. and you don't have it. So you do whatever you got to do to get it. You chase whatever you got to chase to get it. You break whatever rules you got to break to get it. You cross whatever boundaries you got to cross to get it. And you think that's not going to cause you a problem? You think that's not going to sow trouble in your life? It's as predictable as Clayton planting black-eyed peas and knowing there's going to be a harvest of black-eyed peas. When you sow disobedience to Jesus, when you cross the boundaries that he wants to get what you want, you're going to sow trouble for your life. He says you covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. Coveting is a word that we don't use a lot. Like, I don't know if anybody's used the word covet in there, like, unless you're one of those people that prays some stock prayers and you just throwing covet in there because that's, what your grandpa did. Nobody's using the word covet, but I really like the word covet. What it really comes down to is the idea that you care about stuff more than you care about people, right? That's coveting. It's not just jealousy. It's not just envy, but it's because those are generally directed at people. But this feeling is directed at the thing. You covet, you want it, and you care more about getting it than you care about the people around you. That's what it is. You want the career, so you make whatever sacrifices you got to make to get the career. That's coveting. You want what somebody else's house has, so you sacrifice whatever you got to sacrifice, whoever you got to sacrifice, whatever relationships you got to sacrifice to get it. He says, you covet. You care about this thing. You want this thing, and you can't get it. You can't figure out a way to achieve it. So you fight and quarrel. You get jealous of the people that do have it. You get mad at the people that do have it. It causes problems between you and the people that do have it. But then he says this, it's a really big shift. We go from you want something, this is how you go to get it, this is the result of that. But he says there is another option to get what you want. There's a much easier option to get what you want. You do not have because you do not ask. Like we've got this idea in our head that the only way for me to get what I want is to get it myself. I've got to go grab it and bring it back in. But he says, no, Jesus talked about this a lot. He said, if you want something, ask for it. 9 times in the gospel, Jesus says something like that. Let's just read Matthew chapter 7, verses 9 through 11. He says, which one of you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Jesus made comments like this over and over and over. Ask in faith. Pray in faith. Ask for what you want. Seek for what you want. Now, there's a caveat with all of this. All of this is predicated on the idea that you are following Jesus. And so the options that are set up here are 2. 1, you want what you want, and you'll do anything to get it. Whatever it takes to get it. You're willing to cross any boundary to get it. And that's going to cause you all kinds of problems. Or 2, you want stuff still, but you say, I'm following Jesus. I'm chasing after Jesus. And if I can't get it while following Jesus, then it's just not on the table for me. If I can't get the money and do what Jesus tells me to, if I can't get the money and serve the way Jesus tells me to, if I can't get the money and spend time with my family the way that Jesus tells me to, I'm not getting the money. I'm not willing to do it. If you say, I want the pleasure, I want the comfort, I want the whatever, but I'm only willing to get it if I can get it while following Jesus, then here's the option that's open to you. Ask for what you want. Just ask for it. Ask for what you want. Now, James also repeats this. Let's go back to where we were just before. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. He says there are options that you ask for this and you're not getting it, but it's generally because you're asking for the wrong reasons. You're like, hey, I found a vending machine that's going to give me everything I want. So give me the car, give me the money, give me the wife, give me the husband, give me the career. Here, just give me what I want. Give it to me. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Which is not a response that Jesus is going to follow through on. Maybe you're like that in parenting. Maybe you're like that and your kids come up to you and they just rudely demand whatever. They don't do their chores. They're not taking care of their room. They're not following through on stuff you ask them to do, but they demand stuff and you give them that. But that's not the kind of parent I am. Not at all. You want something out of me? I'm happy to give to you. I'm happy to be generous to you. I'm happy to do things for you. But I'm going to do that when you and I are in a good place, when you're doing what I ask you to, when you're following through. And so what he says here is like, some of you aren't asking Jesus for anything. You're pursuing things your own way. And some of you are asking, but you're also doing it while pursuing your own way. And you're treating God like a vending machine or Temu or whatever, somewhere you can get what you want with no effort at all, and you want to keep doing your own thing. And that's not going to work either. The option is not just to ask God for things, but to make a choice. What do you want? And what are you willing to do to get it? What are you doing to get it? What are you chasing to get it? And if the answer is, I'm going to do what I want, I'm going to chase after what I want, and if I have time to serve Jesus while I'm doing it, that's great. I'm happy to do that. And he says, that road is going to cause you a ton of problems. In fact, it has already caused you a ton of problems. But if you say instead, I'm going to follow Jesus, I'm going to stay within the boundaries that Jesus has set for me, I'm going to keep within the priorities that Jesus has set for me, I'm going to serve Jesus, I'm going to do what he says for me, and I'm going to get what I can get while I do that, and I'm going to ask for the rest, then God is more than willing to give you, because your attitude is a good attitude. Your priorities are in the right place, and what you're asking for is a good thing. It doesn't mean that God's always going to give you what you ask for, but it means that he's open. Britt and I, we got married when we were 20. We were both still in school, and we had the opportunity and gift to learn to be poor for many, many years. We were very poor. It's just the way it is. And, we made choices that made us poor. I quit 2 jobs without having another job lined up because I knew it's what Jesus wanted me to do. I walked into ministry positions with no guaranteed salary and twice. And that makes you poor. This is what we're supposed to do. It makes us poor. We decided that what God wanted for us was homeschooling. That's what we needed to do. It was a really dangerous situation where we were in Columbia. It wasn't just worldview and homosexuality and all that. It was dangerous. And so we made the choice for Britt to not work and stay home. And I don't know if you know this or not, pastors generally don't make a whole lot of money. Y'all are very generous, but not everybody has been. We were poor, and we made that choice. And I would pray, one of my prayers, every day for 15 years was, give us money. Please just give us some money. Give us money. Please give us money. And I read these promises, God says, ask and you'll be given. And I'm like, I've been asking. I don't know what's going on. I'm following you. I'm doing what you want to, but it's only on the other side. And we're okay now. We're better than we've ever been right now. Y'all are generous. God's opened up opportunities. Kids are older. But what we've figured out now that we have a little more money is that it's really good for us to know how to be poor. It's really good because we don't spend everything we have. We're used to not spending money, so we don't spend everything that we have, which means that we're available to be generous to people in a way that we couldn't have been before. It means that we're okay not having a lot of stuff. But we've also seen the blessings of God, because even when we had no money, and I can't explain how this happened. I know some people, their priority is the truck, and some people, their priority is the house, and some people, their priority is the stuff. Our priority is the vacation, and we didn't have any money. And you know what? God let us go on vacations all the time. It was weird. God would send us money. Somebody would say, hey, you're missionaries. We want to take care of you. Here's some money. Go take a vacation. God would do that stuff over and over. So I would look at it and God's not giving us any money. But what God did was he gave us money every month, enough to survive on. And then he gave us more to do the things we actually cared about, even though we couldn't really recognize it at the moment. And he made us mature in a way that we wouldn't be otherwise. And you want to know something? God has all the money he needs to take care of us. He doesn't need me to have it in my bank account. And for as long as it was bad for me to have a bunch of money, he didn't give it to me. He just took care of me. But the moment that we were mature enough to handle it, the moment that we were able to use it for his good and not get caught up in it and not lead ourselves into problems, there's money there. God may tell you no. God, you may say, I'm following Jesus and I'm asking for this thing and God's telling me no. And I don't like it that he's telling me no. Why is he telling me no? He says he'll do this. I'm following him. He never tells you no unless it's for your good. And even when he tells you no, he still takes care of you. Maybe not the way you want to be, but in the way that's good for you. So ask for what you want. Follow Jesus and ask for what you want. And there's a good chance he'll give it to you. But if he doesn't, you know that he's doing it because he loves you, because he's a good father. You got two options in how you live your life. And I can predict the future of your life based on which option you choose. Figure out what you want and then decide how you're going to get it. And if you choose, I'll do whatever I got to do to get it. Just be ready. You're going to sow trouble and disaster for yourself. That's what you're going to sow. You're going to sow quarrels and struggles and problems for yourself. That's how it's going to work. Or you can follow Jesus and say, I'm going to stick within the boundaries that he has for me. And if he leads me through a path where I can get the things I want, that's awesome, right? If that's the way we go, that's great. And I'm going to ask for whatever else I want, and I'm going to trust that he loves me, and if he says no, then I'm going to trust him. And that will sow peace, it will sow calm, it will sow contentment, it'll sow maturity in your life, and I can predict what your life is going to be like. Doesn't mean you're not going to struggle. Doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. But what it means is that you'll be at peace while all those things happen because you're following Jesus, because he is making you better. You get to decide how this is going to be. And the thing is, like we say, like majority of people in this room, like you probably wouldn't be here if you weren't already a follower of Jesus. If you're not a follower of Jesus, I'm really glad you're here. I'd love to talk to you about how to do that. But most of you probably already following Jesus. At least you want to. You say you're following Jesus, but you're still chasing things like you did before. You still have the goals that you had before. You're still willing to do whatever it was that you did before. And maybe it's because you don't know any better. Maybe it's because you didn't grow up in this, your parents didn't follow Jesus, you don't know what any of this is like, and you just know that you need Jesus and you get here and you're figuring it out. And if that's who you are, that's okay. I want to invite you to mature out of it. But maybe you've just been following Jesus for a long time. You grew up in this, you've seen this your whole life, and you're tired of being different. You're tired of doing without. You're tired of everybody else having stuff, and you're starting to adopt friendship in the world. You're taking on goals that you never had before. You're chasing after stuff in the way that you never had before, and that's exactly what James is talking about. Friendship with God, or friendship with the world. But what he says about it, in those following verses that we looked at 2 weeks ago, what he says about that is that you may say you're not an enemy of God, but your goals, your priorities, the way that you're chasing things will tell you whether you are or not an enemy of God. And if you say, I'm going to ignore everything Jesus says because of what I want, maybe on paper you're not an enemy of God, but it's pretty hard to tell. So that's pretty general. Right, that's pretty general, but let's get into a couple of specifics. Right, let's talk about this specifically. First of all, what are the things that you're chasing? Right, maybe you're just chasing after money because money can buy you whatever you want. And maybe it's not, like generally it's not about the number. Maybe there are some people that just really like the big number. I just want to see number, like I want to Scrooge McDuck through my money in the basement. Like maybe that's you, but most of us don't want the money for the money. You want the money because you want safety, because you were poor growing up, and you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, and your house was run down, and your house was beat up, and you had bugs all over your house, and your cars were already breaking down, and your parents could never afford to do anything, and you were always a little worried, and you're just like, I'm scared, and I'm never putting my kids in that situation again. I'm never putting my wife or my husband in that situation like that I was in. We are going to be secure. We are going to be safe. So what do? You chase the money. And Jesus says, you should not make that choice. I'm like, I'm not going back to that house. And Jesus says, maybe maybe you should not do this because this is destructive. This isn't good for you. It's not good for your family. I'm not going back to that house. I'm not going back to those meals. I'm not going back to those cars. So you chase after the money because you want safety. Maybe you want comfort. Like, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to have some stuff. I just want to have what I want. I want comfort. I want to feel good. I don't feel good, and I want to feel good, and it drives me crazy to not feel good. And if I just have the stuff, if I just have more of the stuff, then I'll feel good, right? And everybody will be happier if I feel good. So go get the money so we can have the stuff so I can just stop feeling like this. And Jesus said, that's a bad decision. You're like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm going. Jesus says, don't do that. I don't want to feel this way anymore, Jesus. I'm going for that. Or maybe you're wanting the money to buy you some status. You want it to buy you some self-confidence because you were always the weird little kid and nobody liked you. You were always unpopular. You're like, if I just have the money, then I won't be that kid anymore. If I have the money, then I won't feel the way that made me feel anymore. I'll be accepted, I have the money. If I can move into that neighborhood, I'll have the money. If I can have that car, I'll have the money. If I have that job, then I won't feel that way anymore. The money will buy me out of these feelings of inadequacy. The money will buy me acceptance. And Jesus says, don't do that. It's a really bad decision. Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Jesus said, that's a bad decision. Don't do that. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And it works. You feel safe. You feel comfortable. You feel this status. You feel better about yourself. For a minute. And you realize, that emergency fund, it's not big enough. 3 months isn't enough. We need 6 months. Maybe we need 9 months. Maybe a year. Well, if we're able to invest this much, then we'll be okay. If we're able to do this, then we'll be okay. And the line just keeps moving. And you get there and you're like, oh, I'm safe. Until tomorrow. When you realize there's a whole lot of things that you haven't planned for yet, and you're not safe anymore, and you have to keep going and going and going, or you get the stuff and you finally feel better because you have the stuff. And then you see some more stuff. Well, I don't have that stuff. And now you don't feel good anymore. This stuff over here doesn't matter to you. Or you get that position and you finally feel seen. You finally feel valued. You finally feel good about yourself. And then you see that person. And they've got everything you've got, except they're handsome. You got everything they've got, except they're charismatic. You got everything that they've got, except their wife looks like that. You've got everything that you've got, and now you don't feel good anymore. So you chase it, and you chase it, and you chase it, and it just keeps going further down the road. And you always feel good when you get it for a minute. And then you turn around and you look behind you and you see broken relationships and broken marriages and kids you don't know and times you disobeyed Jesus and ways that you didn't serve and ways that you were selfish, and you see a trail of broken things behind you, and you still don't have what you want. The thing is, all the things that you're chasing money to get can be found in Jesus too, except better. What makes me safer? Having a 6-month emergency fund? Having a strong, healthy salary? Or having the one who created the universe meet my needs? Which one makes me safer? Which one should make me feel better? Maybe it doesn't, but which should make me feel better? Like it doesn't matter how much money you pay me here. Let's say you triple my salary here. And I get cancer. How safe am I? Let's say you triple my salary. And a tornado comes through straight at my house. How safe am I? The only way that I can find safety is in calling out to Jesus and saying, I'm going to die. It's going to happen. It's coming for me. And I know that I'm guilty. I'm going to spend eternity in hell because of this. And I need you to rescue me. And that doesn't mean tornadoes aren't going to come, and it doesn't mean you're not going to get cancer, and it doesn't mean that you're never going to be at a point where you're eating butter sandwiches on cheap white bread. That does not mean that. Doesn't mean that. It means that no matter what happens, you are safe. You want comfort, and you keep chasing things for comfort. But the thing is that Jesus can offer you that comfort. It's called contentment. It's not soft and fuzzy, but it's better. And it can make it so that you're okay, even if you don't have the newest thing, the latest thing, the thing that you see on Instagram. It can make it so that you're okay in a way that chasing the stuff never can. And I'm sorry. As the weird kid, as the nerdy kid, I'm going on 41 years, and my research so far has been that I'm never going to stop feeling a little bit out of place. I'm never going to start feeling a little weird. I'm never going to stop feeling like there's something else that everybody else gets that I don't get. And it doesn't matter. I've got people that love me. I've got people that look up to me. I've got people that come and ask me for advice. People 20 years older than me sitting in my office asking me for advice. And I still feel like there's something wrong that I don't get. Because I'm always going to be the weird kid. It's always going to be that way. But do you know where I find acceptance? I find acceptance in Jesus, who loved me not only while I was a sinner, but while I was that weird kid, that weird oddball kid with no friends. That's where he found me, and he rescued me, and he saved me. And my wife loves me, and my family loves me, but Jesus accepts me in a way, knowing everything that there is to know about me, knowing all the weird stuff about me that I don't tell people, that I try to put a lid on, because I know if I get too excited about the weird stuff, they're going to get that look. I know I find acceptance in him, and you're trying to chase it in money, and it's not going to work, and it leaves behind a path of destruction, but it's available to you in him. I don't know what your thing is. I don't know what you're chasing. Our society tells us sex is the most important thing that we can have in our life. Sex and sexual satisfaction is the most important thing that we can have. So destroy your relationships, leave people, violate boundaries, do whatever you got to do to get it. But I'm telling you, as someone that has sat with broken people, as someone who's been a part of a broken family because of chasing that, the satisfaction is momentary. But the satisfaction that you find in following Jesus, in living out your sexuality the way that he tells you to, in finding it in a marriage, a healthy marriage where you love each other and you take care of each other, is satisfying in a way that temporary stuff isn't. You can live your life one of two ways. Figure out what you want and decide you're going to do whatever you got to do to get it. Or figure out what you want and say, if I can get it while following Jesus, I'll get it. And then ask for what you want. One of those ways leads to peace and contentment and acceptance. And the other one leads to brokenness and just feeling worse than you felt before. So what do you do? You say, Ben, this is me. This is me. You're describing me. This is my whole life. I feel this way, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to change. I don't know how to make it better. What do I do? Well, the answer, fortunately, is also in James chapter 4. I've been fixated. I didn't preach last week, so I've had 2 weeks, and I'm fixated on these things that James says here, because it is it's kind of a revelation for me to see this, because when we talk about how do I fix sin, how do I beat sin, we generally talk about brute force. Don't do it. How do I stop sinning? You just don't do it. I'm like, but I really want to do it. Like, don't do it. And that doesn't seem to be a plan that works very well. But James says something here in chapter 4 that really has shifted my perspective on how to fight sin, on how to fight this whole thing. Clayton, skip I think it's 3 slides. There we go. That's it. Perfect. James chapter 4, verse 6. He lays out 4 things here that you got to do. And only one of them has anything to do with you and choosing to sin. Okay? He gives more grace. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I don't know if you can see that purple or not, but I highlighted them in a way that you might not be able to see. God gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. There's 4 things that you do here to fight sin. And 3 of them are just your relationship with God. Number 1, humble yourself. Recognize your sin. You did this. You chose this. You messed this up. He is not to blame. You are not Job. You did this. Admit it. Be real about the problem. I haven't dealt with a ton of addicts, but addicts, addicts. I have dealt with more than enough addicts my entire life. I haven't dealt with a ton of addicts, but I have dealt with enough to know that the way that you can predict whether the addict is going to recover or not is whether they admit that they have messed up or not. A ton of them will say, well, it's not that big a deal. I just made a mistake. It's not, I can stop. I can do whatever. Those guys, not going to recover. But the ones that say, I need help. I am broken. I don't know what to do. Please help me. Those are the ones that can recover. And it's the same thing with your sin. When you admit what you've done, when you're honest with God about what you've done and where you've been, who He is and who you are, and you humble yourself, this is Him and this is you, you humble yourself and say, I don't deserve help, but dear Lord, I need it. That is the first step to beating this sin. The second thing is to submit yourself to God. Not focus on, I'm not going to sin anymore, but focus on, I'm going to obey Jesus. What are the things that Jesus is telling me to do? How is Jesus telling me to live? I'm going to do those things. I'm not going to try to just get rid of everything in my life at once, but I'm going to say, what do you want from me, Jesus? I'm following you. The third thing that he says here is to resist the devil. What are the temptations that are in your life? What are the triggers that set you off? You know yourself. I don't know you. I don't know what your thing is. I don't know what your favorite flavor of sin is. I don't know what it is that you want and what you're chasing, but you do. What is it that triggers you? Like if it's money, and we've been talking about money a lot, so let's use the money example. If it's money, then you have to defeat the hold that money has over you, right? Get a budget. One of the most spiritual things you can do is to tell your money what to do. Because if you don't tell your money what to do, it will tell you what to do. And you cannot serve God in money. Get a budget. It doesn't have to be a formalized thing. You just got to make sure that your money is not in charge of you. Give it away. The best way that you can say this money is not going to have the hold on me, I'm not going to chase this anymore, is to remove it from power in your life and give it away. Give it to the church. Give it to people in need. Do what you got to do. And then start putting some margin between what you spend and what you bring in. Lower what you spend so that you're not chasing after that high from that. Resist that temptation. Right? We talked about sex. If your deal is sex, if that's what you're at, you're having trouble with that. Get a blocker on your phone. Get an accountability partner that will ask you about what's going on. Finish the relationship out. Do whatever you need to do to stop those things from being an issue for you. Get some help and get in the way of that. What's your deal? What's your thing? What are you chasing? Identify the triggers that are leading you into that behavior and stay away from them. You say, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. Good news, I work full time. I'd love to sit down and talk to you. I will be happy to help you do whatever. If you're more comfortable with a guy in a t-shirt, Evan's got you covered. Like, you can sit down with him and do whatever you need to do. There are other people, like, you want to go to somebody and say, I don't really want Ben to know this. I'm not comfortable with this. Talk to your deacon. There are other people in the church that you could talk to for advice. If you say, I'm not comfortable talking to you about this, but I don't know who to talk to me, I'll tell you who to talk to. You're not going to hurt my feelings to not make me sit through another meeting. Like, this is okay. Get some help, because we're here to help you. Resist the devil. Stay away from the temptation. And finally, draw near to God. Spend that time with God. Get in the Word, get in prayer, serve in the things He's telling you to do. Do what you can to pull near to God. The way to defeat sin is not brute force, don't do it anymore. The way to defeat sin is by chasing Jesus, by spending as much time as you can with God, by allowing Him to change you and sanctify you, and then not even resisting the temptation. Everybody wants to get in the middle of the temptation and fight it. Like, you want to... I'm sorry, I'm trying not to get too graphic here. You want to get in the situation, but then resist. That's what everybody wants to do. That is not how you do this. You don't go over there. You don't get involved in that. You stay away from that, because if you're tempted over there, you're going to give in. So just stay over here. Avoid those things. But most of what there is about defeating the sin in your life is about pursuing Jesus, about having a right relationship with Him. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? This seems really easy, right? Which seems better, to have a life of destruction where I don't get what I want, or to follow Jesus, get eternal rewards, and get what I want? Which one of those is better? Well, following Jesus, of course. And yet we don't do it. This is the obvious solution, but we don't do it. Why? I'll come up with 3 reasons. I'll rush through them. Number 1, maybe you don't believe. Maybe you haven't trusted in Jesus. Maybe you're not close to God because you don't know Him. And maybe what you need is to recognize that you are a sinner that is on their way to hell, that is separated from God, and you need to accept the forgiveness that Jesus offers. Would love to talk to you about that. All of this stuff is going to start to make a whole lot more sense if you do that. Maybe it's not that you don't believe. Maybe it's that you don't trust Him. You trust Him for eternity. You trust Him for heaven, but you live in the real world where you got to get stuff done. And this is all really good for Sunday, and I would love it if it's true. I really love that this is true for you, but I live in the real world, and I can't just do things this way. Maybe you believe Jesus, but you don't trust Him to come through for you, to take care of you, to give you what you need. I don't know what to say, except that if you trust Him for eternity, but you don't trust Him for right now, you don't really trust Him. Because one of those things is a lot harder than the other. And you're trusting Him with a hard thing and not the easy thing. I need you to examine yourself. Do you actually believe in Jesus? Have you actually placed in your faith in Him? Have you actually trusted in Him? Because if you can trust Him for the big thing, why can't you trust Him for the small thing? And here's the third thing, and I think this is the one that's the most common. The reason we don't follow Jesus and ask for what we want is because we're afraid He's going to say no. He's going to say, no, not her. He's going to say, no, not that job. He's going to say, nope, you're not going to have that much money. You're not going to have that dream. It's not good for you. And we're afraid He'll say no. So we don't ask because He'll say no. And that is most of us. I want this thing. And I'm afraid He's going to say no. So I'm just not going to ask. What if He says no? What if He says, no, not her. No, not this. No, not that. What if he does? Is that not okay? Is that not acceptable? But I want it. He's going to say no. Maybe. But I can tell you, as somebody who's been told no over and over and over and over, it's always better for me when he tells me no. And there's a lot of stuff I want that I don't have. There's a lot of stuff in my life that I've wanted that I have not gotten. Tried to plant a church in Columbia, Missouri. Planted a church in Columbia, Missouri. And every day I would beg God, please send us some people. Please send us some people. And he did. Not the amount that I wanted. Please, God, how could you not want this? How could you not? We are on the same page. Like, how could you not want this? And he said no. He said no. He didn't give me what I wanted. But he did a lot of stuff he wanted. He made me better. He made me more mature. He made me more content. And the thing is, I was so obsessed with what he wasn't giving me that I didn't see the people that he did give me. I was so upset about the no that I didn't see all the yeses. And maybe you're not willing to follow Jesus, not because you don't want to, but because you're afraid he's going to say no. Let me just tell you, the no's are good for you. And there's a lot more yeses than there are no's. What do you want? I'm fine with most of what you want. Maybe there's a couple of things like, no, that's kind of weird. But most of it, it's fine. What are you willing to do to get it? If you say anything, I will prognosticate. I will predict your future. It's going to be hard. It's going to be full of broken relationships. It's going to be full of broken dreams and unhappiness. And you're not going to get it. But if you say, I'm willing to release what I want and follow Jesus, and if I never get what I want because I'm following Jesus, that's okay. I'm going to follow Jesus. I'm going to sit within the boundaries he says for me to sit in. I'm going to go where he tells me to go. I'm going to let him tell me no, and I'm going to let him tell me yes. Then I can predict your future. You're going to be content. You're going to be mature. You're going to be strong. And I don't know if you'll get what you want, but you're going to get stuff that he has for you, which is so much better than what you want. C.S. Lewis said that we're like kids playing in a mud puddle. Meanwhile, a parent comes along and says, let's go over here. Let's go over here and play. And you're like, no, I like my mud puddle. Meanwhile, the parent is trying to drag you to the beach to play in the ocean. And the things that you want sound great. But what he has for you is so much better. So what do you want? And what are you willing to do to get it? Would you stand? Our Heavenly Father, we come before you right now, and I'm so grateful for a church that will let me preach past 11 o'clock. And I'm so grateful, Lord, that I can trust you. And it's easier to trust you now that I'm at the ripe old age of 40. It's easier to trust you right now, Lord, because I have seen your faithfulness. I have spent a lifetime of being told no by you only to see all the good things that you have for me instead. I've spent a lifetime of following you, and so it's easy for me to look back and see it. And I can see all the times I messed up. I can see the times that I did it wrong, the consequences of that. And from my perspective, it's easier. But I know that there are a lot of people in the room that don't have that perspective. They can't see all your goodness over the years. They can't see all your faithfulness over the years. This is an act of faith. This is Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade stepping out onto that chasm, not knowing where it's going to go next, Lord. But I ask for help. I ask for courage, and I ask for wisdom. I ask that you would help them to see that if you are willing to die to rescue them, then there is no limit to what you're willing to do to take care of them. That if you can be trusted with eternity, then you can be trusted with today. And if you can be trusted with eternity, then you can be trusted to decide yes or no. I ask for courage to step out even if we don't have the long history of trusting you. I ask for courage to make the decisions we need to make, to step away from some of the things that we've been chasing. I ask for courage to step out and fix broken relationships. And I thank you for the fact that defeating sin, beating these sins, overcoming this stuff isn't rooted in our ability to brute force through it, but it's rooted in growing closer to you. I ask that we would be a church that follows you no matter what we leave behind to do it. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.